Hey everybody, welcome back to today's episode of the Like Attracts Like podcast. Today, we're going to dive in deep once again to the law of hypnotic rhythm. It's something that's been coming up in the creation of many of the mentorship programs that we've been rolling out. And although it covers and combines basically all of these energetic principles and your life experience every day, we can use the law of hypnotic rhythm to reference not only our past and our versions of ourselves that have created some of the contrast we have been maybe currently going through, but how to release that, and then also how to use the exact same process in a deliberate way to be able to look for and create a life that we are scripting. So I want to throw this out there and change it up. So from the law of hypnotic rhythm, which is the unconscious manifestation and creation of the wanted and unwanted things in your life, in this episode, we're going to shift to the law of conscious creations. And applying this in your life can be the very thing that changes it. Stick around. We're diving in deep when we come back.
Take a look at life from a different perspective. What if life is happening for you and not to you? This is the Like Attracts Like podcast with your host, Pat Mahan.
All right. So today, again, we're going to be shifting from the law of hypnotic rhythm paradigm and understanding of how we perceive and create our lives and how we feel in our moment. And we're going to shift that to what is the exact same process, but when it's done deliberately and from consciousness, you're now consciously creating your life in a very non-hypnotic way. The reason the law of hypnotic rhythm is so powerful is because once you realize that it is the mechanism that has been behind not just the creation of the things that you see in your life that you want or that you've outlined that you wanted to create or manifest in your life, but it's also the representation of the shadow version of your experience, the things that are unwanted, the relationships that don't make you feel good, the experiences in your life that represent or bring up or trigger versions of you or emotions that you've experienced in the past, bringing them into a current moment to get you to look at them again or resolve them. So that's what we can do going forward, but it's important to understand how it was developed, how your conscious mind works inside of a physical reality where you have a computer hard drive storing all of the things that you tell it to, even if you are not understanding that you are at that point consciously telling it to. Anytime I went through some kind of an experience that I wasn't super pumped on in my life, I had a story about it as I went through it to get me through it. And then once I got through it and was no longer maybe emotionally attached or affected by this thing that I didn't like, it was now easier for me to tell a new story because I'm not in the frequency of the thing anymore. So something happens in your life, there's an experience, and you don't like it. When you are going through it emotionally and feeling what this thing represents to you, you, especially unconsciously, will have a difficult time, if it's at all possible, to be able to separate the observer of you from the experience. You are attached to what's happening. You feel it, you identify with it, it is part of your story, and it becomes part of your future now stories until we do what we're going to do today. We're going to reconcile this inside of us. But first, it's important to know what happens along the way to create this energy block inside of us, which continues to perpetuate the loops that we see. This experience, after the emotional impact wears off, I now have the ability to say anything I want about it. I can justify it any way I want. I can say that this happened instead of this happened. I can say that it went this way instead of that way. And my mind, if I repeat these stories over time, will start believing what I say, even if it is not based in an objective truth about what happened in those moments or in that experience. We have the ability to tell a story. We are storytellers. This whole process is the understanding that we get to decide and choose what story we tell based on how we believe this works and whether we think we're worthy of it or not. So after the emotional impact and you're not attached, you could say whatever you want about it. Your mind will begin to remember that, but there's one very important thing that we have to keep in mind. Haha, see what I did there? That the energy of the experience, regardless as to how amazing we are at convincing ourselves it went otherwise, the energy of the experience is stored in literally the cells of your body. That emotional stamp is stored in different energy centers and throughout the collective of your body cellularly. There are patterns in your brain that are formed that transfer signals throughout your nervous system when certain things represent that experience to you, whether it be some thought-based thing, meaning you're thinking of it or thinking of something similar to it, or whether it is being manifested in the world for you to look at again in some other way, shape, or form. The signals that were developed during the emotional attachment of the thing that was unwanted that you went through in your life has stayed with you regardless of the story you tell about it. So first, of course, very important is to figure out why this would be bothering you now. If something happened in the past, why are you going through this now? Why do you feel this way now? Again, the law of hypnotic rhythm, the reason they call it hypnotic and rhythm and law is because the energy underneath it is the energy underneath it. It is never wrong. It's never off. It's never not what it is. The energy that creates and moves through us is the same. That can't be altered as far as how it works. We have to alter how we work with it. So this is where it's important to understand the hypnotic rhythm part, because the conscious version of you, which only makes up 5% of your actual living experience in reality, you're only aware of what's coming into your frame of reference using 5% of your consciousness. The other 90 or 95%, depending on who you want to listen to, is unconscious, under the surface, not presently in your awareness where you are conscious of it, meaning consciously affected by it or the ability to make changes once it's been shown to you. 95-ish% of our experience is unconscious. You can walk from your bedroom to the kitchen to open the fridge and get something to drink and pour a glass of water or drink it, go back, get under the covers, and then barely even have to do that. You barely had to think much except for the initial intention. What do you want to do? I want a glass of water. You get up out of bed. It's just autopilot. You're just going. You set an intention and you go. And there's some conscious experience, but much of it is under the surface. That's how you can drive home from work, not paying attention, looking at the scenery, talking to your friend. You're doing 75 million different things at once, but you're just chilling, driving, listening to the new song on Spotify, listening to your favorite podcast, doing whatever you want to do. There's not much conscious attention. So when there isn't much conscious attention, because much of what we do is hidden under the surface, what do? We start imagining things to worry about. We start imagining things that could go wrong. We start imagining things or being able to focus on what we don't want. The more and more we do that, but deny that we do it, that unconscious part of you that gets you to the kitchen to get your glass of milk and drives your car home from work when you're rocking out to a new song, that is also replaying the actual story and what you feel about what happened, regardless as to what you say about it, under the surface with just as much accuracy as you're driving your car. And the more it tries to come up to be resolved, the more we try to push it down because we don't want it in our 5% conscious awareness. We don't want to think it ever even happened. We don't want to deal with it or address this at all. This is not part of my life I want to remember. This was a very difficult time. These were several very difficult times. I don't want this. I'm going to go run the other way. I'm going to go distract myself. I'm going to go do whatever it is except go back into my story and try to figure out what the hell happened or why this happened. But the truth of the matter is, by universal law, this energy is looking to come out. It's not a part of your alignment with your higher self. It represents fear. It represents doubt. It represents a lack of trust either in yourself or in this universe. Because sometimes things happen that we absolutely can't understand or make sense of at our frequency of consciousness that we're at. And there comes a part where you have to let go of that, even though it was probably the most devastating thing that ever happened in your experience. Sometimes it's beyond our understanding. And there's a grand universal scope that we couldn't possibly comprehend. And our human will fight that logic all day. But the truth of the matter is, until that's resolved, it will continue to try to come out of you. And it will do this in this hypnotic way of you unconsciously repeating patterns of stored negative energy until eventually it builds up enough momentum that it will be created in your world for it to resolve. And you're not going to understand why. But now you do understand why. Not just because of this show, because of this episode, but because you've been on the path to waking up for a very long time. And now here you are. You are understanding how this works. You're getting how energy flows through you. You understand it's stored in your body. You even, at this point, if you're still listening to this episode this far, understand that it all happened by design and for a reason. But maybe you're unsure with what to do with it now. You've gone back in your past. You've healed. You resolved. Now you're in a current moment. How do I use this going forward? What do I do? How do I use what I'm doing to either guide myself or someone else? This is where we have to understand that what we focus on expands. All you have is this moment right now. Cliche, Hallmark card, you got it. But here you are. It is never not now. It is designed to only not be anything other than now. the fact that we can't go back in time is equally as important as the fact that we can't go forward in time is. So with back and forward being illusions of a construct that we're trying to control, what is that telling us to do? To let go of the desire to go back or the need to go forward in order to change something in our moment to be okay. What does that mean? It means that we have to make peace with, heal, and reconcile all of those versions that we are trapped in our unconscious. The greatest lesson for me in letting go was understanding that since we can't go back, and I do feel strongly this is so by design, the only thing that I can reason from that point is that all of it had to happen to get me to now. And that if I feel bad now from it, I create more of it. So if those versions of myself created the version I am now, and I have the potential now to use those experiences to shift my perspective, if nothing more than to trust and believe that it led me to the person that I am now to be okay, then I am the person that those versions were looking for when they were scared, when they didn't feel safe, when they were hurt, when they were made fun of, when they were neglected, when they were abandoned. They were looking for someone. I am that someone. You are that someone that those versions of you were looking for in your times of trauma or need or contrast or discomfort or fear or anxiety. You are becoming and are now that version that we were seeking outside of ourselves. Knowing, if nothing more, that you can only help someone to the degree that you are willing to go inside of yourself to resolve and heal and face your shadow. Anyone can focus on things that they want and feel good about it and then watch them show up in their life. The true alchemist of energy and life and conscious creation understands that in order to do this fully and embrace your path and your purpose that may have been eluding you up until this point is diving into the shadow versions of you that were looking for someone that they wanted to be and realize that they existed so you could be that person. And here you are. You are now that person. You can use what was the law of hypnotic rhythm, this unconscious creation, to shift the paradigm. Allow yourself to set new intentions, not from regret, not from the past, but from this moment forward. Allow yourself to believe you're worth writing a new script. And now you're conscious of the whole process. You'll be able to navigate your moments more fully and stay in alignment longer, which will give you more opportunities to not only become aware of the components that are going to be needed to create the life you script, but you'll also be aware of what to do with them when you get them. You will be deliberately creating a new pattern and dialogue that will eventually also over time run unconsciously. But now it's not blocking and pushing down and running from and avoiding and distracting inside of this unconscious loop of play-by-play that has been running in your subconscious mind. But now you are literally flipping it to contain stored information of all of the things that you want to see. And it will be created from and attracted back to you at the emotional frequency that you set the intention from. This is why I feel gratitude journals are so important. Once you get this deliberate creation part down, you start to see evidence of what it is that you've created, what you've asked for. You start to hear a conversation while you're out to eat at a diner and someone talks about the book that you just read and what they're doing with their life. It just, if you're open to it, you will see these pieces flow into you. The thing is, when our conscious mind is too busy pushing down things it doesn't want to see because it was scared of them or doesn't understand them, because those versions of us are still looking for someone to resolve it in the world and we can't find it and we don't know why and everyone lets us down and no one's up to our standards and what do we do? When you let go of that needing to be the case because you fully allowed yourself to immerse yourself in who you are, knowing that you are perfect as you are, you always have been, and now you just finally realized it for sure. Your awareness is open to much more information. So much more data will come in, and you'll be able to sift and sort through that now with an attachment to your actual GPS system. You've set boundaries. You understand that you used to be a people pleaser and do things that you didn't want to do for validation from other people that honestly could care less about whether you did it or not. They would find someone either way. You're not going to limit yourself anymore because you don't think you're worth it or you don't think the world can provide it, because you've let go of some story that said that this was anything other than an abundant universe. You've let go of your parents' stories of how hard life is and it sucks and you better watch out and and though that's their story. That's not your story. And if it is your story, there is a way to let that go too. Comparing your subjective truth to objective reality for you, or what is possible and potential, is the biggest part of what a conscious navigation or spiritual awakening is. That's why it can be really, really challenging to navigate through. There's so many contradictions, paradox creations, and confused days that follow the second you wake up to the fact that things don't work in the world the way you were told they do. Take today and deliberately allow yourself to look for things that you've asked for, whether it's an emotion or a physical thing in the world. If you've asked to feel better because you haven't been feeling so good, allow that to be okay today. Take a deep breath. Know that in this crazy, jumbled world of wanted and unwanted things, that a good part of your programming is designed to look for things that don't make you feel good because you have a story about why you shouldn't or why you're not worthy of feeling good. You're worthy of feeling good, and the day will bring you evidence of it if you ask for it and if you allow it. Give yourself permission. Don't say it's going to be fleeting. Don't say it's not worth it to have a great day because it's just going to be a garbage day tomorrow. Don't do that. Stay aligned with who you are. Ask for what you want. Feel alignment with it because you're worth it. You came here for a reason, and your purpose and path is lying right on the other side of you allowing permission for it to be possible for you. And that is what I wish for each and every single one of you. Again, just some clarity. I got a couple emails on the membership and the one-on-one programs that are being developed. It just takes a very long time. There's a lot going into it. And I'm excited that you guys are excited. I promise the second that the links are done, I will put it out there for everyone. I'm really excited to work a little bit more closely with some of you guys out there, and I really can't wait for that. So until next time, have an amazing day, a wonderful night, and I will see you then.